to act in a violent way. The soul's emotion causing the physical body to react in a violent way towards itself.
So you don't think that the world was ever that animals eating animals was ever designed to occur that way?
No. I believe there are certain creatures, like insects, what I would classify to be creatures without a central nervous system. With a central nervous system, there is a capability of experiencing pain. Without a central nervous system, all pain is localized. And if there's no central nervous system, there's no processing of pain. So I believe that all the creatures without a central nervous system were given to the creatures with central nervous systems to eat. And in fact, the creatures without central nervous systems, there is a historical evidence and scientific evidence that they came first in the evolutionary cycle. Now, I believe what happened was that we have these creatures evolved that over many periods of time came to the point where they do not have central nervous systems, but they then became a food source for the next leap or the next generation of creatures, which were the creatures who developed central nervous systems and who also had a spirit body. And once we see this transition occur, once this transition did occur, these animals were all capable of surviving by eating those other animals or those other creatures, or by eating the vegetation that was provided already in abundance on the planet. And if you look at a normal functioning ecosystem on this planet, there are huge amounts of vegetation, huge amounts of insects and other creatures without central nervous systems, and there are far less amounts of creatures with central nervous systems in comparison. You know, if you look at the average yield per acre of insects compared to the average yield per acre of a mammal, you'd see that one mammal might be in 1 square acre, where in 1 square acre there might be literally billions of insects. And this is an indication, I feel, of what those animals would have normally eaten. And here in Australia, the majority of them still do normally eat those particular creatures.
I think there's out of the billion species of animals, 800,000 are insects.
Yep.
And they're discovering 10,000 new species every year.
Yes. Yeah.
Of insects.
Yes. And the reality is there's so much abundance of insect life. There's so much abundance of fungus, bacterial life, and all of those kind of life. There's so much abundance of vegetable life, so much abundance in all of those areas of flora. And I feel that those were our primary food sources for all of the living creatures that have ever existed. Now, there are some creatures that are designed as carrion creatures, clean-up creatures. Right from the insect, from a blowfly, for example, a normal house fly, right the way through to an eagle or something like that. They are all, I believe, created for the purpose of cleaning up carrion. I don't believe, once we get into our pure condition of love, that those animals will destroy other animals. They will, after the animal has died, clean it up. But I don't believe that they will kill the animal. Does that make sense? I do believe they have the ability to clean it up, because we can see all the way through the physical universe, and particularly on the Earth, we see this constant mechanism that seems to be present, and that is this constant mechanism towards perfection, really, a mechanism cleaning up the environment and getting it back into a pristine state is constantly occurring. And if you take man out of the operation, it happens quite rapidly, in hundreds of years. If you put man in the operation, where we're destroying the systems, now it can take thousands of years for recovery to occur. There's an interesting thing that's worth examining. You remember Chernobyl, the nuclear meltdown that occurred in Russia and Chernobyl in the Ukraine, and in Chernobyl, they haven't had anybody there for the last 30 years or 25 years or however long is long now since that occurred. What they've found is the animals and the birds and the other creatures in there, none of the first generation died. Not all of them, but the first generation, some of the first generation died after the nuclear fallout. But the next generation completely survived without any effects, even though their whole body was full of radiation. So what they expected to occur, which was, this constant degenerative thing that it would normally occur with radioactive isotopes, that is not occurring. And what they've started to do is start examining why that would be not occurring. They've actually had film crews go in there, and it's worth having a look at some of them that are on the net. And they've taken, pictures of the animals and the birds, and in fact, because there are no humans there, the animals and the birds and the wildlife are flocking into the area and multiplying in great numbers, and yet many of them have high levels of radiation, and yet they don't get sick, and they don't die, and they live normal life. They live a normal time period as what they would normally live outside of the zone, the radioactive zone. And you've got to start asking the question, well, why is it that the animals in there, which are contaminated with radiation, are living like that, when the animals normally who are living with humans who are radioactively contaminated die within a few weeks generally? So there's got to be some relationship between the animals being with the humans and then the animals not having to be with humanity. So there's got to be something to do with the humans' emotions, the human state, that's causing these relationships to occur. And I don't feel at this point that anybody's really asked any questions about that, but these are all interesting things that we could be investigating and putting a lot more of our scientific effort into.
A lot of people